Kyrgyzstan bayırkı jerde, miltiregen asmanda çeginbestin jaşoosу, жаңы атаандаштар, мына келди чечим кылууга. Ким калса, жана ким барса.
Going to Kyrgyzstan was the hunt of a lifetime, a place few hunters get the opportunity to go. During this portion of my time in Kyrgyzstan, I was behind my camera, not my gun. I was privileged to be hunting with Brian Martin, owner and operator of Asian Mountain Outfitters, and his good friend John Shafter. I wanted to photograph one image that represented our experience in Kyrgyzstan. I think sometimes a picture is worth a lot more than 1,000 words. Those are the pictures I look for.
Marco Polo hunting is a very challenging hunt. It's a very rewarding hunt. It tests the hunter's senses. Again, you will find a weakness. Everybody has a weakness over here at some point, and Marco Polo hunting will test that. I think a Marco Polo hunt done right, fair chase on horse, on foot, spiked out, is one of the most memorable and rewarding hunts in the world. It can also be one of the more frustrating hunts in the world. So shoot a lot, hike a lot, train hard, keep a great attitude, and I have a saying that your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. But when you're at high altitude, if you don't have good lungs and legs, you're not going to go very far. So over here, never assume anything. Don't take anything for granted. Go prepared with your equipment. Go prepared mentally, physically. Don't quit. Have patience when going gets rough, because usually things will turn around. It's real hunting. It's challenging, and I think it's some of the best mountain hunting in the world.
This hunt that we just got here to take part in is the Kyrgyzstan Marco Polo hunt. This is a hunt that it's always been an absolute just dream of mine, and something that I've always, just really was excited to do at one point in my life, and then actually to have it happen and to be here today and to begin the hunt. It's very exciting for me, and it's a dream come true, quite frankly. Just to get here, the logistics of just getting over here, we're basically just hunting off the outside of China here. It does, you're basically catching a flight out of the States, working through 2 days of travel to get through Istanbul, then into Bishkek here. To give you an idea of how remote this territory is once you get in the vehicles and leave Bishkek, it's roughly 10 to 14 hours to get to the base camps. And then from the base camps, once you get here and basically unload your gear, everybody gets their gear situated, we basically spike out from there.
Take care. Okay, see you.
The Best of the West is brought to you by Nosler Up Front, Sportier, Gunbroker.com, Huskama Long Range Optics, the Wild Sheep Foundation, and by LongRangeStore.com.
You know, not everybody's a fan of sport hunting or trophy hunting, but in places like Kyrgyzstan, it's actually quite regulated. There's probably about 45 Americans a year that hunt in Kyrgyzstan, and let's say another 45 Canadians, Europeans, Mexicans, Russians that hunt. Probably less than 100 Marco Polo licenses are given out every year. So let's say there's 10,000 animals and 100 permits. It's a fairly low number that are actually shot. Far more numbers are shot by locals and eaten by wolves and snow leopards. And the one advantage of having the hunting is that a large amount of money goes to the government. There's about $8,000 to $10,000 of the Marco Polo hunt cost goes right to the government for the permits. And so they have a vested interest to have the hunting here. And the local outfitters usually pay people year round to stay in the camp to kind of watch over the area to make sure locals aren't poaching the animals. And if they can shoot a few wolves or trap some wolves, they'll do that. So it's kind of a trade-off. I think if you didn't have the Marco Polo hunting, actually there'd be less Marco Polo in 5 or 10 years. And if you shoot the older rams, most of the time when we're riding around, I very seldom see winter kills that are more than 8 or 9 years old. Very few rams live past 9. So if you're shooting old animals, they're going to die from, typically wolves are going to kill them, get caught in the deep snow or get caught in the ice in the river, or they're weak from the rut. So trophy hunting is definitely an essential part of the economy over here. It's not a huge part, but in some of these remote areas, it's the only thing that they have, other than the sheep and the goats and the horses that they raise. Also with the Marco Polo, because they are always hunted by either locals sometimes or by wolves or snow leopards, they're extremely cagey and they're very wary. A gunshot, a human head, humans riding a horse will put them in instant alert and running. So it's not like you can shoot at a moose or an elk or even a bighorn sheep and they jump up and look around and see what's going on. You shoot at a Marco Polo ram, you ride up the valley with the horses and they see you. It's basically like lighting their ass on fire. They're getting out of dodge right now. So you don't have a lot of time to make shots. Very spooky animals, very cunning animals. So when you're hunting these animals, be very cautious, sneaky, and make sure the first shot counts, because you're not going to get a very easy second shot if you do get one. But always, when you shoot an animal, as soon as you shoot the animal, put another round in. You might have hit him in the horn, you might have hit him in the back, you may have hit him too far back, and he's going to give you lots of times another opportunity to shoot. But if you're screwing around, giving high fives, and not paying attention, that might be your opportunity. It might be either a lost animal or a wounded animal that you have to chase for hours, and who knows where he's going to go. The other thing that's really important when you get over here is shoot your gun a lot. I don't recommend 1 or 2 shots. I mean, make sure it's zeroed at 100 or 200 yards, and then go out 300, 400, 500, 600. Test your ballistic program. In this case, we use the Huskama scopes with Best of the West. Very simple system. You make a turret for the bullet with a BC, with the elevation, the temperature that we're at. So in theory, once you get the range on the animal, you turn the dial, and all the scopes that we used over here on this trip were very accurate for this elevation, within an inch. You can't be a bench rest shooter and come over here and expect to shoot a Marco Polo. You're not going to have 3 minutes to get set up with all your bipods and everything. You may have 10 seconds to make a 500-yard shot. You've hit a little bit high and right, 1.5 inches, 2 inches.
One of the things that I was aware of, and through communication with Brian, is that a lot of the shots you're taking are that 400, 500, 600-yard shot. And just to kind of give you an idea of the preparation that we put into this, not only are we jumping on, ellipticals, etc., because we're hunting 12,000, 13,000 feet, but we're also getting the proper shooting gear in line, obviously getting our camping gear in line, etc. I did work with Brian, and Brian recommended that I reach out to the Best of the West and use their Huskama scope and get that scope set up on their package, basically put together for a rifle. In doing so, practiced out to 600-700 yard shots in preparation for getting out here, because when you're hunting these Marco Polo, they are a very wary animal, and an animal that if they do see you, they're going to spook and they're going to run. And to get a shot that's 200-300 yard shot, that's fairly rare, but it does happen. So basically we left our spike camp and jumped on the horses, went out about 15-20 minutes on horseback, and Brian spotted actually a couple of Marco Polo, probably 2,000 yards away, and Brian sized it up real quick. Within a matter of seconds he knew he was a 195 plus. He's a shooter, 7+ years old. We decided to put a stock on him.
Did you shoot him? He's cool. If you want one that's tight, you could tap.
Yeah, you start up the first summit, because we knew if we could get to the right spot and peek around the corner, we thought we hadn't spooked them, that they would still be there. 3-4 hours into that hike, we get to the spot where we're thinking that we're going to have a shot at these two Marco Polo, the one being the nicer of the two. And we couldn't locate the sheep. Basically, I'll be honest with you, getting up that first summit, quite frankly, about killed me. Even though I've done all this preparation, I've been eating right, I've been running the elliptical, etc., lifting weights, getting prepared for this. But your body can't, it's funny, you run into a situation where your body just cannot adapt that quick. It's the first day basically out in the field at that elevation, and you're trying to put that kind of workload on it. And basically I was feeling the hurt. So once we got up to the top, our guides, the local guides that were with us, spotted some Marco Polo, another group, crossed the canyon back the other way, and they wanted to come down off the hill, get back on the horses and head back over after those. And Brian, only thing we could see was the snow tracks cutting through this big bowl or this big basin, and then summiting another peak. And it's probably 2-3 feet of snow that they plowed through to get there. And Brian glassed that hillside for probably 30 minutes to confirm that the sheep weren't just sitting on the ledge, 20-30 feet from the top, looking at us. And once Brian confirmed that they had crossed, he insisted that we actually make the summit again. And I'll be honest with you, once again, that was a gut check moment. You had to just reach down and just know that Brian knows what he's doing, and even the local guys were like, "Ooh, this is going to kill us." But we did it, and 2-3 hours into that summit, I'll tell you that that last 30-40 minutes of that summit, I got so nauseous that probably 6 or 7 times I bent over basically just to lose my lunch. It didn't happen, but I was at that level of exhaustion, trying to get over that last 30-40 minutes, that last peak. Brian is a flat-out machine. Brian had the heavy pack on, the heavy gear, and he's basically got walking pneumonia out here, and he's just ahead of me, dragging me along. And once again, I cannot take my hat off to Brian about his efforts for us. But once again, so once we did crest the peak there, typically 300-400 yards, we're going to figure out a spot where we're going to find him and hopefully have a shot that's within that 500-700 yard shot. So we did make the crest. We came off the top, and Brian was out ahead of us with one of the local guides, and they spotted the two Marco Polo actually sitting bedded. One of them bedded on the trail that they came down, and both of them were basically staring back up at the direction that they just came from. So that to me was very impressive, that here's two Marco Polo that we saw at 8:30 in the morning, and we have not visually seen them, or they have not seen us for I think it was 3 o'clock when we finally came up over that ridge and saw them. So 6-7 hours later, those sheep were still spooked and weary, and watching watching the trail that they just came from, because they did not like seeing us 2,500 yards off when we first spotted them in the morning. So that kind of give you an idea of how hard it is, or how cagey these animals are. to get out there and actually put a stock on them and have them not see you. They were in a spot where we could take them. Brian and I basically belly crawled to about 700 yards, 720 yards. My first shot that we were getting ready to take, I had some snow in my, we were concerned the barrel was going to be too low through the snow, so we had to cut another 10, 15 yards off to get a little higher vantage point, but we couldn't get any closer to that. And I think the shoot-to distance was roughly 705, but the line of sight distance was 725. So we did make that adjustment to the Huskama scope there. I'd been practicing this summer quite a bit at the 700-800 yard shot. Felt very confident with that shot, basically laid down, and we did have Brian moose call to get the shoot to stand up.
For more information about hunting in Asia with Asia Mountain Outfitters, contact Brian Martin at 250-317-5525 or visit online at www.asianmountainoutfitters.com. For more information about the products used in today's show, please go to longrangestore.com or call 1-866-754-7618.
Take him.
Oh, more good, man, like this.
Put another one in, just in case. Just get ready.
Once the Marco Polo stood up, I squeezed the trigger off and basically made a perfect shot, dropped him square in his tracks there. Brian did ask that I throw another follow-up shot into him because they're such a tough animal that they will get up with a shot like that and they'll run off, you know, a mile, 2 miles, and up in this country, that's enough to kill a person. So I threw a second round in. Unfortunately, it was a little high and put it right through his horns there, but anyway, it did go down, and that first shot was a perfect shot and was a final shot for him.
All right, we're in China. I mean, sorry, we're in Kyrgyzstan. We're in Afghanistan.
I don't know where we are.
I think we're in Afghanistan.
Not ever.
No, we're in the Aksai Valley of Kyrgyzstan here, and Mr. Shafter here just made an awesome shot with his new rifle setup, with Huskama scope and a Hart rifle. 730 yards straight line, 705 yards corrected, one shot, and the ram dropped. It was great because there was no wind. Thank God there was no wind, because a 700-yard shot with wind is not fun. So anyway, we have a great ram. He's 6 or 7 years old. Really big based, really big body. He's got a great big old mule nose on him, you can see, really long. He's a little longer on this horn, a little shorter on this horn. And this right here was the follow-up shot. And that dropped him also. Because the ram dropped and he picked his head up. And he tried to shoot him up here, but the ram was moving like this. And he hit and it came out right here. But anyway, the first shot did it. I like follow-up shots. Ammunition's cheap, and missed animals and wounded animals are not fun. All right, good job.
Man. Thank you, appreciate it. Best hunt ever. It's an unbelievable country, and Brian does a great job. He's like a flipping mule out here with pneumonia, and hiking these mountains with packs on of 80 pounds plus, and I can barely keep up, and I've been getting in shape for this, so if you can believe that. But anyway, you're the man.
I've done this a couple times.
Yeah.
Not my first rodeo.
Yeah, incredible.
Thank God.
So on the Best of the West rifle setup, I got that done a couple of months back in preparation for this hunt, and those guys up there just hooked me up with a rifle I already owned, put the scope on it. They got me some ammo that shoots phenomenal with it, and then long story short, I feel very comfortable sitting down, making the adjustments per the caller's direction, and letting the rifle do the job with the scope. It's simple, it's easy, and I'm a firm believer in that setup.
If you want to go hunt Kyrgyzstan, if you want to see what you really have deep down inside, like I said, I've hunted Canada, I've hunted Alaska, I've hunted other places in the country, in the world that is, and I'm telling you, this is one of the most extreme, remote areas that I've ever hunted, and quite frankly, it sure makes you reach deep down inside and see if you got it. See if you got what it takes, basically, to get her done. And I don't know if that can sum it up, but that's just basically walking out of here. That's kind of where my thought process is. This was a heck of a hunt, one of the hardest things I've ever done, fighting all the obstacles. Once again, the cold and the altitude really are difficult things to deal with, but at the same time, when you get it all done, when it's all said and done, it's a hunt that you'll never forget.
She's got a big old strong neck on her.
I wanted to photograph an image that would represent this hunt, and once I saw it, I knew it. A horse with no name in a snowstorm, packing out a trophy of a lifetime.
That was it!
I'd really like to thank the Best of the West for allowing me the opportunity to experience Kyrgyzstan. I'd also like to thank my friend Brian Martin for all his efforts in making this hunt and this episode a success, and for John Shafter for allowing us to be part of a dream hunt he'll never forget.